On April 14th, 2011, I made my very first episode of Anime Abandon, and now nearly 3 years later, we are on the eve of the 100th episode. It's a milestone achievement no matter how you slice it, and it's one that I want to take a moment to appreciate by looking back and...
Clip show!
By looking back and counting down your favorite...
Clip show!
Moments of Anime Abandon!
It's a goddamn clip show!
Mark! You're right. But it's not just a clip show. It's a clip show that you all helped make. By sending in your votes for your favorite moments by the hundreds, you all had a hand in making this video.
Is this your way of shifting the blame if they don't like the list?
Mark.
Yeah, alright, fine. Bullshit. Yes, Bennett and I have our own favorite moments and bits and clips and other pieces of flotsam and jetsam, but if it were a list assembled by us and presented by us, we would look like assholes.
So that's why we opened the floor up to you guys, and honestly, I am very pleasantly surprised by the end results. But before we get to the list proper, I do want to take a few minutes to talk about some of our favorite scenes that sadly didn't make the list. The sarcastic attack from Bao. While I love the gag in theory, it was thanks to Mark's Photoshop know-how that the bit worked so well in my opinion. My favorite little story about this gag was that during the editing, and I was trying to explain to Mark that the lettering needed to be synced to taiko drums, he knew exactly why. It's great when two minds are on the exact same wavelength. Bad Called TV's cameos. We were fortunate enough to work with Lachlan Huddy and his cohorts a few times, and every time we asked him to participate, he gave us so much more than we hoped. Whether he's filming a bit for the t-shirts or being stuck in hell, Lachlan always delivers. The mic drop from Fatal Fury Double Impact. It's a simple gag that's all in the execution, and although I think the framing could have been better, I still love the end result. Credit as always to Mark for suggesting that I build a bunch of prop mics instead of laying down the cash to purchase dozens of them. The Big Book of Gay Jokes from Tokyo Revelations. I rarely laugh at anything I'm editing, but this was one of those few times I was cracking up at the sheer ridiculousness I was watching. It's also one of the few extended skits I was excited about shooting, and I think that enthusiasm rubbed off a little onto the final cut. Rob Paulson choking me out in Macross Plus. This scene was just a happy accident, as both Paulson and I were at Con G back in the winter of 2013. I really had no plan to shoot anything with him, but I knew that I couldn't leave the con without something, so I just asked him to choke me out on camera. To his immense credit, he agreed, and now I had a killer bit to write an episode around. Thanks again, Rob. The Breakdown with Kyle and Jinro. Having Kyle interrupt my show always had a strawman nature to it, I'll admit, but here I felt it was a sort of necessary device to draw the point I was trying to make. Also, I loved how we were both able to diffuse the interruption by laughing off any notions of pretension by facetiously remarking that we're smarter than everyone else. Kyle's a great sport in that regard, and he's a joy to work with whenever the chance presents itself. The establishment of Benetopia and Tenchi Muyo in love. This was another one of those moments where I let my fingers do the typing and what came out was a nightmare to try and visually realize. Credit again goes to Mark for helping this bit shine the way it did, and turning a silly stream of consciousness bit of rambling into a recurring gag. Lastly, the Twilight of the Cockroaches review. Me and Mark are huge fans of The Critic, and we were shocked to realize that of the many internet review shows out there, no one paid any kind of direct parody/tribute to it. If anything, this episode was the most fun to write for the both of us. And as always, Lachlan and Renee Huddy were amazing in their roles. It's the episode that is closest to my heart. Well, enough self-indulgence for me, it seems. Let's get to what you've all been waiting for. Your Top 10 Best Moments of Anime Abandon. Number 10. Even though I don't count my crossover reviews with Spoonie on Space Thunder Kids and Garzy's Wing as official episodes of Anime Abandon, I do have to admit that both of those reviews were what helped build Anime Abandon. If you ask me today why I chose those particular titles to review, I wouldn't be able to give a direct answer other than because they were easy to make fun of.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Dr. Khan gave us an order to return, so here we go.
There is a war going on. Even dinosaurs are here.
Regardless, these two reviews laid the groundwork for the show, and it also directly led to a lot of your guys' favorite episode.
hate you so fucking much.
It was difficult pinning one moment down in the review as the clear favorite. Many chose the creepy beginning, others chose the Mexican laborer bit.
It used to be a very peaceful place before the Red Soldiers started receiving heavy artillery support from the outside. Now we're like a moth in a flame.
So, at the end of the day, I just lumped all the votes into the one episode, and I have to agree with you all. It was a very fun review to make. Honestly, reviewing these Korean chopsaki anime are almost criminally easy. The hardest part is simply whittling down the massive amounts of material to present you with. It's like, you want to talk about the horrible animation, but then will you have enough breath and time to talk about the terrible music? And what about the scene where that robot just smacks the woman's butt over and over and... Ah!
Ouch! Oh, forgive me, I was wrong! Stop it! Oh!
The only part of the review that I would change if I had the chance is probably the ending. Wow, Noah, you really are giving me the death grip, ain't ya? Listen, chump, take a page from this guy's book.
Evangelion was great, Bennett! You hear me?
That guy knows how to choke a bitch. I still can't wear turtleneck sweaters to this day. Well, clumsy ending aside, it was a fun review of an easy target, and I'm glad to know you all thought so too.
Watch your mouth, Dr. Bear!
Number 9. Though Diatron 5 was all over the place in terms of your guys' favorite moments, you were all very clear which moment in Apocalypse Zero got your attention. Boring. Boring. Don't care. Don't care. Oh my god, I live in my own eyes! Finglui Miguana Fa Cthulhu Relaya Wagana Gulfatagan! Here's the thing about me. I love visual gags, but I am a terrible visual effects artist, which is why a lot of the earlier episodes didn't include moments like this. That was until I met this guy.
Yo.
So tell us, Mark, what was it like working on that?
Hate you, sweetheart.
Glad we had this talk. I really do feel bad sometimes when I write a visually involved or Photoshop-heavy bit into reviews, because it inexorably means that Mark will have to make whatever crazy thing I write down into reality. Still, his work goes to show, as this creepy bit was a sort of party piece that I had wanted to toy around with for a while up until that point. I had to wait until I found the right anime to give me the right amount of mindfuckery in order for me to use this bit. And boy did Apocalypse Zero deliver, and as you'll soon find out, in more ways than one. Number 8. One of the major things I wanted to express with Anime Abandoned was that anime, for better and worse, had changed since I was heavily involved when I was a teenager. And it took about 50 episodes for me to properly express that notion. Macross Plus is exceptional in all ways. But being exceptional means that there's not a lot like it. Though the MO of Anime Abandoned usually revolves around dick and fart jokes, I never meant it to be the only way of writing an episode. Every now and then, there needs to be a high-handed moment to rally around, an important thought, free of mockery and cynicism. This was a speech I had wanted to make for a long time, but for one reason or another, I kept putting it off because I felt that it would clash too harshly with the tones of most episodes. That, and I was scared that I would come off as being too full of myself, like I believed I had the answer to everything. It does my soul good, though, to see so many of you feel the way I feel, and took what I said to heart. Although, if I could draw the curtain back a bit, the reason why that speech was so effective had nothing to do with me or my words, and has everything to do with Jerusalem. Demand better from the creators and the studios, but most of all, we must demand better from ourselves. Change cannot occur without our help, and the only way that directors and writers can have the courage to explore the uncharted and for producers to fund the untested is if we, the fans, reward them for it. Seriously, you can pair that up with anything and it will wind up tear-jerking. There's a reason why Jeremy Clarkson used Jerusalem to back up his speech on the Jaguar E-Type, and a reason why I used his speech as a framing device for my own. Because Mark told me. Number 7. Some gags were written as intended, and some gags were born from editing. This is one from the latter.
Yakuma!
Yes! Yes! Originally, the bit was just supposed to be me screaming along with the clip with a few other random clips thrown in for good measure, but I found out the more I threw in random assorted screaming clips, the funnier it got. I really don't like using referential humor, unless I could put a creative spin on it, or I can reference things that aren't driven into the ground, and here I was able to do a bit of both. And I also realized that as I made the clips louder, it got even funnier, and paired up to Ode to Joy, while not exactly original or groundbreaking, just completed the scene. This moment is very similar to my intro to my Evangelion reviews, which also got a lot of votes in the poll. So if I'm reading you all correctly, you all like screaming and Ode to Joy.
No!
Damn it! Number 6. I love to be able to take credit for this bit, but this was Mark's baby from beginning to end. I only contributed a few lines to the final product. And it's thanks to his editing that we all know where to go for our dungeoneering needs.
You need is a dick, a spine, and a heart. But since we can't sell you that, you'll just have to buy the Spoony One's Dungeoneering for Assholes. His new 73-point method for conquering any and all dungeons, except for the Prison of Love.
In the interest of transparency, we originally wanted to get Noah to do the voiceover for the first volume of Dungeoneering for Assholes, but he was unavailable to record at the time, so Mark suggested we go with Antfish, and goddamn did he hit it out of the park. I originally had a tough time wrapping my head around this sketch, but I soon came around, and I am so glad that I did. I like to call this editing style Mark Littling, as it bears more than a passing resemblance to Mark Little's style of cut-and-paste rapid-fire animation. Who's Mark Little? Well, he's part of the team that brought us this.
Hey! Do you want to feel so energetic? Try Power Thirst! Energy drinks for people who need gratuitous amounts of energy!
What? Imitation is the most sincerest form of flattery. And also the easiest. Well, we may have aped a certain style, but I believe the effect it gave us was worth it, as people are still demanding a Volume 3. Coming soon. Trademark. Number 5. Going back to what I said about going full Garzy's wing, I really don't like to rely on referential humor, but despite myself, sometimes it makes for a memorable joke.
What are you waiting for?
As much as I hated that song in Love Hannah, and believe me, I really fucking do, there was no other way for me to properly convey my feelings of impending doom and anger like Rorschach here, but that was only just a part of this complicated bit. I actually hurt my voice doing that inhaling scream at the end, and I wish I would have redone some of the takes during the build-up to it, but again, I like to think that the effect was made and bore its way into the viewer's psyche. just like the original Willy Wonka tunnel trip. Speaking of which, I had a tough time rewriting the lyrics to that tunnel song, and if you listen to my lyrics, you can definitely tell that I am stretching the definition of what a rhyme is. But that's the thing about a bit done right. The nitpicks won't matter, so long as the laughs are there. And if the laughs aren't there, well, you could always bury yourself and die. Number 4. Oh boy. Number 4. Too late to call a mulligan, right?
I want you to do your fucking job! Because if you don't, somebody else will. And then what? You cashed in all your chips on being a clown on the internet. And now you're backing away at the first sign of trouble. You cannot live this life without offending someone!
I am so not shitting you. My Violence Jack video was the 4th highest vote getter in the poll. And this is something that both surprises me and doesn't surprise me. It's surprising because I didn't think people loved the episode that much, but it's not surprising because I knew at least half of you guys liked it. The other half... The following is a reading from an actual comment left under the Violence Jack video.
Let me start off by saying, I hope you took whatever small amount of change you got from the not 1, but 3 boring commercials that I had to sit through while watching this garbage. And
go fuck yourself with it, you unbelievably dense, fat bastard!
After all the teasing and shit, and you fucking give us this? Like your fucking Oscar-worthy acting is better than Violence Jack. This fucking video is everything that's wrong with this site nowadays. And goddammit, I thought your Ava review was the worst you could have gotten with all that bullshit aside about your daddy and you playing baseball or some shit.
Instead of fucking reviewing the anime!
You are one of the most frustrating reviewers I have ever seen. And if you have any dignity left in you, you will take this shit off this site. This is a site for
reviews!
Good sir. And
this is not a review!
Fuck you, Bennett. Mother, fuck
you!
Yeah. Writing and creating the video, we always knew that we were going to piss some people off, and I'm not going to deny them the right to be angry. I hoped, however, that there were enough people that could get over their anger or disappointment and see the video for what it was, an acknowledgement of moral limitations. I wound up dramatizing my actual feelings on Violence Jack, and just so the record is clear, my actual thoughts and feelings on Violence Jack are this. I find it draining, I find it thoroughly depressing, and it is simply not a fun watch. And really, that doesn't make for an entertaining video. You could argue that what I made wasn't an entertaining video either, but I could still look at that review and feel a weird sort of pride in it. In fact, that's the perfect way to describe how I feel about it. It's not my favorite episode I ever made, but it is the one I am most proud of. It was the most heavily involved video I ever made, and I hope that it goes to show. Oh, God. Number 3. One thing I can really hang my hat on is that my review show has the most unique censor out there. Even though using Kaiser Neko's face as a censor bar didn't start in Anime Abandon, it started in my crossover review with the Cinema Snob, he's sort of become my unofficial mascot for Anime Abandon. And, like all mascots, he needed a reboot.
I am the light in the darkness. I am the hope of the universe. I am the answer to all living things that cry out for decency. I am Censor Kaiser! Ally to modesty! Nightmare to purge!
Just you and me.
Does this mean I could show the nipple pasty?
No.
Damn it! This moment is special to me for 2 reasons. One, it could mean that Censor Kaiser could become an actual character in the show, and 2, it made for a more visually interesting censor to look at than just a weirdly cropped out head. It was Mark's idea that Sensor Kaiser should be a parody of the Laughing Man logo, but it was Apocalypse Zero that gave us a frame of reference for this transition. Honestly, if there was one anime that could break Sensor Kaiser, it would be Apocalypse Zero.
It's my function!
This was also our love letter to Brave Little Toaster, and kudos to all of you who caught it. Still, it's not like this reboot doesn't come with its own complications. Right guy who has to painstakingly animate Sensor Kaiser whenever he's talking on screen? Number 2. If you told me back during my Golden Boy review that me putting on a red velvet robe and talking in a Charlton Heston voice would lead to the second most memorable thing about my show, I wouldn't have believed you. Greetings, you hapless nerds. Suave was never meant to be a character. At the time, I was still trying to find the angle on Anime Abandon, and I figured if I changed up the structure and thesis of the review with every episode, it would find its groove. I just wanted to riff on the fact that this guy, who was a complete goofball, managed to get all the ladies crushing on him, and Bourne was this sort of persona that walks a very fine line. I think it's helped by the fact that I look the way I do when I play Suave. If I were generically handsome, all of a sudden the character would just be too full of himself and way too grating for him to be funny. But, looking the way I do, all of a sudden he's this schlubby loser who has this inexplicable superego. So, it becomes funny. It's the same idea behind the Chippendale sketch with Patrick Swayze and Chris Farley. It's not that Chris is fat, it's that he's fat but everyone else around him is acting like he's the Adonis. I'm glad that you like the character because he is a blast to write and play. And plus, it's a chance for me to act like somebody I could never be. Ha! You hapless Ned. How could you ever think you could be me? Because I play you? No shit. Yeah, no shit. Oh, I meant to ask earlier, but completely slipped my mind. How'd your date go last night, Suave? My date? Dude! Thank you for the water.
No problem. Just make yourself comfortable while I make the final touches here.
Good. You have a very lovely apartment.
Aw, you're sweet for saying that, but the place needs to be vacuumed. But you know how it is.
Yeah. You don't need to apologize, though. I mean, I like dirty girls. I like girls that are dirty. I like girls.
Okay, you alright, Suave?
Yeah, fine. Fine. Keep it together, Suave. You have this one in the bag.
You didn't mind the wait. Perfect. I was on my back in no time.
You mean you had her on her back in no time? No, I mean, yes. That is exactly what I meant. Stop judging me! Number 1. Do you really need to guess what number 1 is?
Right!
Was there any doubt that you guys would vote Mad Bull 34's pube grenades as number 1? It's my most watched episode. It's the one moment people keep talking about, even going on 3 years after it was released. Of course it would be number 1. And I hate to say it, but I kind of wish it wasn't. Don't get me wrong, the scene remains being the most coked out, nonsensical bit of 30 seconds I have ever showed, but if you look at the bit, there's really nothing I added to it. Sure, Andrew Dickman drew a lovely piece of accompanying art to my rambling hypothetical future, but the strength of this scene is tied directly to the fact that for 30 seconds, we were watching an 8-foot-tall behemoth lob grenades that he tied to his pubic hair for reasons that make sense only to him. All I really did was just Bob Saget the crap out of the scene, and people think I had something to do with it. It kind of frustrates me in that regard. But I completely understand. This scene is so skull-fucking insane that it draws in everything around it. And for people who had never seen the anime before and only know of it through my review, they can't help but tie me to the scene for better or worse. I guess what I'm trying to say is, this isn't my favorite moment, but this is also not my list. And I should be thankful that people like my show enough to have favorite moments to begin with. So, to all of you who wrote in citing this moment as your favorite moment in Anime Abandoned, I leave you with this. Take a good look. This is what you all wanted to see. Soak it all in. Every last bit of it. See you all for the 100th episode. Till next time. Long live your Lord High Regent Sage! Long live Benetopia!